Mordor, a land reviled by shadow and fire, is a place where the dark will of Sauron seeped into each stone and every wind that cried over its broken and desolate fields and towering mountains. Spiked and old, walled off from this destroyed domain, their crests wreathed in unending storms, sulphur streams of liquid rock wound through the land, illuminating the night with a foreboding blood-red glow. The very air was thick with the scent of brimstone, choking those unfit to endure its unfeeling grasp. The land itself pulsed with dull energy as if alive, whispering echoes of torment and perpetual war. The mighty tower of Barad-dûr lingered in the distance, its dark towers reaching into the sky like the claws of a vindictive god, the ever-watching eye of Sauron casting its searing gaze over the no-man's land below. This was a land of war where death was unceasing and mercy was but a forgotten word. The armies of darkness assembled in endless swarms, their numbers swelling with each passing day. Orcs, crude and unfeeling, honed their rusted edges, their darkened armor reeking of rot and decay. Towering trolls, their thick hides scarred from centuries of battle, wielded weapons large enough to smash a brigade with a single swing. Orcs with their glowing yellow eyes and slavering jaws lurked in the Badlands in search of prey, their throaty snarls filling the air with fear. However, more terrifying still were the abominations birthed from Sauron's twisted will, serpentine fell beasts whose wings blotted out the dim light of Mordor's skies and the feared Oliphaunts, enormous war trolls bred for carnage and annihilation. Here, the skies were thick with fiery ash, smearing out the sun and leaving only an unending twilight beneath Sauron's malevolent gaze. It was in this accursed land that the armies of darkness had clashed against the forces of men and elves countless times, pursuing war in an endless struggle for dominion. The land had been soaked in blood, the soil saturated with the misery of the fallen, but this time the battlefield would be different. This time, the hunters were not of this world. The ground trembled, not from the march of Orcish armies, but from something else, something invisible, something ancient and far deadlier. A new kind of hunter had arrived, and the creatures of Mordor would soon learn fear unlike any they had ever known. High above, the storm-ridden skies of Mordor concealed the vomited beasts below, a Yautja hunting party rising from the dark void. The vessel was sleek and ancient, adorned with the battle markings of the Dark Blade clan, one of the most feared and revered clans of the Predators. These seekers had navigated the universe in search of only the deadliest prey, and now they had come to Mordor, drawn by the raw, relentless savagery of this world. The ship slid silently, its cloaking technology concealing its arrival from prying eyes. The accursed land stretched out before them, a realm of unending war, a proving ground unlike any other. The Yautja observed the armies of Sauron below, crowds of orcs milling beneath the watchful eye of their dark captain, ambling trolls honing their warhammers, and wargriders scouting the edges. The Predators had found worthy prey. One by one, the Dark Blade warriors activated their cloaking devices, their forms flashing as they engaged their stealth technology. They moved like phantoms, unseen, unheard, but ever watching. Their biomasks filtered the battlefield, analyzing the creatures and assessing their strengths and weaknesses. Their mission was clear: hunt the strongest, cull the weak, and challenge the very heart of darkness itself within the great fortress of Barad-dûr. The disturbance had not gone unnoticed. Shadows whispered of unseen figures moving through the night, striking at unsuspecting orc sentries found torn apart, their heads mounted on pikes as a silent testament of war. Wargs howled in dread. Their riders were cut down before they even knew what had come for them. Word reached the dark captains, and soon the call to arms was sounded. The orc war bands assembled in the valley of Gorgoroth, forming an endless sea of iron and darkened steel. Great siege engines were prepared, trolls were armed with massive warhammers, and bowmen lined the cliffs, ready to rain death upon any foe bold enough to challenge the will of Sauron, the Dark Lord himself. He did not move, but he watched, he waited. Then the slaughter began as the orcs marched in formation, scanning the darkness. The first strikes came without warning. The lead captain, a towering Ura clad in black plate, felt the sudden heat of plasma sear through his skull before he even had time to scream. His body fell lifeless. His flesh burned away in an instant. Panic spread through the ranks as warriors searched desperately for their unseen enemy, the Dark Blade. Predators moved like phantoms, their cloaked forms weaving through the ranks of orcs, cutting them down with ruthless efficiency. Plasma casters lit up the night, burning through armor and flesh alike. Wrist blades slashed throats. Spears impaled Yu's mid-charge, and Komi sticks twirled through the air, slicing through entire squads with ease. The battlefield was a nightmare of fire and shadow. The orcs fought back, their arrows flying wildly, their blades swinging at ghosts, but their crude weapons found nothing. The war riders charged only to be ripped from their saddles by unseen hands. Their beasts were left howling in confusion before their heads were severed from their bodies. Even the mighty trolls, towering brutes bred for destruction, were fed one by one, their skulls pierced by razor-sharp predator discs or their throats slashed by the merciless hunters. It was not a battle. It was a massacre. The black captains of Mordor watched in horror as their forces were annihilated as their warriors fell screaming into the dirt. This was no mere enemy. No army of men or elves with their shining swords and noble ideals. This was something else, something ancient, something beyond their understanding. The Witch King of Ongmar, the greatest of the Nazgul, stood atop a blackened spire. His wraith-like form flickered with malice. He turned his gaze to Berad, where the eye of Sauron burned with growing fury. The Dark Lord had seen enough. This was no longer a matter for orcs and trolls. This was a challenge that demanded a greater response. A deep tremor rumbled through Mordor as the skies darkened further as the will of Sauron stretched forth, touching the battlefield. The winds howled, carrying his command. The Witch King raised his blade, and with it a new darkness spread across the land. The air grew heavy, thick with dread. The ground itself seemed to pulse with a malignant energy. The hunt had drawn the gaze of the Dark Lord himself, the Predator. Their masks scanning the shifting energies around them, they turned their eyes toward the towering fortress in the distance. They had come to challenge the mightiest beings this world had to offer, and their hunt was far from over.